welcome those who are watching online. We do still have some church family around the country and around the world that are watching online, and I just want to say welcome as we're going through our James study. We're going to be talking a little bit about Father's Day here, and I have to start off by saying years ago, I had somebody tell me, have you ever noticed that Father's Day messages are different than Mother's Day messages?
Yes.
You've noticed this, okay. He said Mother's Day messages are all about honoring your mother, and moms being a blessing, and call your mom and tell her you love her and that you appreciate her. And then this friend told me, Father's Day messages aren't like that. Father's Day messages are, guys, you need to do better as dads. Guys, don't provoke your children to wrath. Guys, look at these biblical examples. Can't you do better? Does that happen? Is it really that? No, maybe. Maybe. It might be just a guy thing, though. Because what do guys do? We have a tendency to try and encourage each other to be bigger, better, faster, stronger, right? We try to push each other to, come on, you can catch a bigger fish than that. Come on, you can get a bigger boat than that. Come on, can't you get your car to go faster, your motorcycle to go? I mean, don't we just push each other to, right? This is what guys do. Encourage each other to do more and do more. And it's actually kind of scriptural. Not that I have attained, but I press on towards the mark. I press on towards the goal. It's scriptural to kind of encourage each other. Press on, keep on going, keep running the race. And maybe this is why Father's Day messages tend to be more, come on, you can do it, you can do it, you can do better, you can be bigger, better, faster, stronger. I think sometimes we do this with our kids though too, don't we? We try to encourage our kids to be better. I've caught myself several times telling my children, good job, you did great. But next time, why don't you, do something bigger, better. We try to encourage and we try and push, make things a little bit better. Which leads me to our Bible study, our book study here in the book of James. James wrote this book with instructions to make us bigger, better, faster, stronger, to encourage the way we think, to change the way we live, to help us to be more representative of God. And so this is what our Bible study, our book study in the book of James is doing. James is encouraging us. You can be bigger, better, faster, stronger. You can do more. So this morning's Bible study is not just a Father's Day challenge for fathers. It's going to be a challenge for all of us. A challenge for all of us. We're going to be looking at James chapter 1. If you turn in your Bibles to James chapter 1. James wrote this to the persecuted church. It's scattered all over the place and wanted to encourage them to keep on keeping on and to have the right perspective. And so we're going to jump to right away here to verse 21. We talked a little bit about this last week. But we're going to continue here, verse 21. James chapter 1, verse 21. I have to ask though. Well, yeah, let's start right at verse 21. Let's do this. James chapter 1, verse 21. Therefore put away all filthiness and rampant wickedness, and receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your souls. Be doers of the word, not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. You're only deceiving yourselves if you're just listening and not doing. And this is the verse we looked at last week. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away and at once forgets what he was like. I have to laugh because I just happened to see this past week. Noticing how guys and girls look in the mirror different. What do guys have a tendency to do when they get in front of a mirror? I'm not kidding, I saw this week. Suck in the gut, puff out the chest. I walk by this guy, and he's flexing in the mirror. I'm like, yeah. And then, I'm not kidding, the next day, I see a lady looking in the mirror. And it wasn't sucking in the gut, but it wasn't flexing. It was right up close to the mirror, duck lips. You know what I'm talking about, right? What's the duckling? And then the face stretch. I'm trying to get rid of the wrinkles. I don't know what was going on. Sorry. Verse 24, he looks at himself and goes away and at once forgets what he was like, which is what guys do when we step up to the mirror, right? Put out the chest, we suck in the gut, we flex a little bit, and we walk away from the mirror and we're like, whatever. Sorry. Looks at himself in the mirror, goes away and at once forgets what he looks like. And obviously we're trying to see ourselves in the mirror of the Scriptures, in the mirror of the Word, so we can be more like our Creator. Verse 25 goes on to say, but the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, perseveres, being no hearer forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing. If anyone thinks he is righteous and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless. We talked about this verse a couple weeks ago. If somebody says that they're representing God, but they're having a hard time controlling their tongue, that their actions aren't supporting what they say they believe. And then verse 27, religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world. I'll reread verse 27. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world. I need to stop and tell you real quick. I thought that I wouldn't get to this verse until later. And interestingly enough, the timing changed in the past couple weeks, and it put this verse right on today, Father's Day. Reread the verse, knowing it's Father's Day. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God, who? The Father, our Heavenly Father. To visit orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world. We're going to dig in at verse 27 here. Right at the very beginning, verse 27, religion. Stop. We're going to look at the word religion real quick. What is religion? James lived in a very religious time in history. He was born into a Judeo-political religious system. Judaism was the whole political and religious. It was everything. In Judaism, it's your life. Judaism was started by God, instituted by God. In the Old Testament, we have the account of God being this the king over Israel. But Judaism, by the time James was writing this, was not Judaism that God had intended. It became corrupted. The leadership, the priests, the practice of Judaism, everything just got corrupted and distorted. And in James' day, there were different sects and there were different parties, different synagogues. There was the Pharisees, who were the rule regulators, the traditions, the control. This was the Pharisee part of Judaism. The Sadducees were more of the old school. We're just going to stick with the Torah. We're not going to listen to the Pharisees' legalism. There was the Essenes. They lived out by like a Qumran, by the Dead Sea, where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were kind of like a monks. They were secluded. They wanted to practice a very secluded type of Judaism, a very religious practices with washing and cleanliness and memorizing. And so they helped write the Dead Sea Scrolls, actually. There was the Herodians, that thought Herod was God's elect, that Herod was the chosen political leader of the Israelites. There was the Zealots, who were Jewish, like the Jewish Revolutionary Party. They were like, Israel to the death. One of the disciples was a zealot. There was the scribes. They were kind of like the Jewish Torah lawyers. They liked to make sure that people were reading and interpreting the Jewish law correctly. There was other groups of Judaism in this time with James, and there was like the disciples of John the Baptist. They had followers. There were other rabbis and teachers who had their different schools of thought on Judaism. But unfortunately, even though it was instituted by God, it was distorted and corrupted by humans, by by people. And so James is living in this time and period under the religion of Judaism, but also in the surrounding culture there's other types of religions. There was different false gods, there was idols, there were Greek gods, Roman gods, there was paganism. All these religions had specific rules and practices that they needed to do. There was giving, protocols, and it gave people like this false sense of security. If you do this, you do this, you do this, then you can. And most of it, a lot of times, it was in exchange for money or loyalty or religious obedience. It was about control. So a lot of this Jewish Judaism and false religions in this time period was about controlling people. And James saw this. And so as he's writing this book of James, we read it in verse 27. Religion is what? When we hear the word religion, what comes to your mind?
Man-made.
Man-made, right? This because it's been distorted. We've got the steeples, we've got the rituals, we've got the the pews, we've got the getting in trouble as a kid because you took too many crackers out of the plate that's going by. Sorry, did anybody else do that when they were a kid? Okay. It's religion. Sometimes we just get this, but it's supposed to be an outward expression of your faith. It's a demonstration of something that you believe. It's showing people that what you say, what you do is what you believe. This is the outward expression. This is what religion is supposed to be. And even though it's been distorted, it's been twisted and corrupted, according to James, religion that is pure and undefiled. Here's what it should be when you're showing what you believe. This is how it should be, undefiled and pure. This is your undefiled outward expression or demonstration of your faith. Martin Luther once said, the world does not need a definition of religion as much as it needs a demonstration. Can I say that again? The world does not need a definition of religion as much as it needs a demonstration. People need to see what we believe. It shouldn't be about control. It shouldn't be about traditions, rituals. It shouldn't be all the man-made stuff. It should be about showing people what we believe. And this is what James is saying right here in his book. Put your faith into action. Don't just say, I believe this. Do something with what you believe. We looked at this 2 weeks ago, James 1:22. Be doers of the word, not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. Do something with what you believe. And James goes on to say, the purest and the cleanest, or the most undefiled, the most vivid expression of showing what we believe, it's in how we love others, which is what we're going to see here in the rest of the verse. Verse 27, a religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their affliction. I want to stop and look at the word visit for a moment. Visit, because the Greek word is translated visit here in verse 27, but it can also be interpreted or translated as look out for or to take care of. To look out for or to take care of, visit. How do I know that that's what it means? Well, Jesus used the same word. Jesus used the same word in Matthew 25. And if you will, real quickly turn in your copy of the scriptures to Matthew chapter 25, and we'll see how Jesus used this word, visit. Matthew chapter 25. I'm going to start reading in verse 31. Matthew chapter 25, verse 31. When the Son of Man comes, Jesus said, when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. Before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will place the sheep on his right, but the goats on the left. And the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. Notice how there's always an action to somebody in need here. I was hungry, you gave me food. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me in. There's all action. Verse 36, I was naked, and you clothed me. You did something about the need. I was sick, and you, what's the word?
Visited.
Visited me. It's an action. It's not just going in and saying, hi. It's taking care of. It's meeting a need, looking out for that person. I was sick and you visited me, Jesus said, verse 36. I was in prison and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger, welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in a prison and visit you? And the king will answer them and say, truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me. The word visit, to take care of, to look out for. When my wife is sick in bed, she doesn't want me to just peek in the room and visit her. Hi, just peeking in to say hi. Not a visit. What does she want? She wants me to take care of her, to look after her, to help meet her needs, to bring her some soup and crackers. It's an action, doing something, not just, hi. So James tells us, religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to visit, to look out for, to take care of the orphans and the widows in their affliction, to do something, to take action when you see somebody in need. I want to look at the words orphans and widows here, because orphans and widows are obviously referred to in this time period as the fatherless and the husbandless. The Roman Empire in this time period, in James' period here, is going around conquering and killing, and the religious leaders were out stoning people if they were followers of Jesus, and many of the people that were killed in the Roman conquest and in the religious stoning were husbands and fathers, the men of the households. And unfortunately, in this time and place in history, in this culture, in many Middle Eastern cultures, they interpreted death and difficulties as a curse from the gods. And if somebody was cursed from the gods, you avoided them. It kind of added insult to injury. If somebody was going through a difficult time, if they were experiencing death and difficulties, people avoided them. Unfortunately, this is still a weird thing that's practiced around the world, as people have this weird interpretation that if you're going through a difficult time, you avoid the person because God might be upset with them. Doesn't that just seem weird? Do you know that the United States many times sends mercy ships and sends help, Salvation Army, to other countries where buildings have collapsed, they've experienced an earthquake or a tsunami? Because in some cultures they say, oh, their house collapsed on them, they might have deserved it by God or one of the false gods, and so they will avoid them instead of helping them. Doesn't that just seem bizarre? We just have a hard time understanding and relating to that, but this is what this culture was experiencing. They'd go, oh, your father, your husband was killed in war or stoned by the religious leaders. Okay, we need to avoid you because you might be cursed by the gods. This is not what they needed. They needed what? Help. They needed help. And in this time period, in James' day, these fatherless, these husbandless, were the most vulnerable group of people that you could come in contact with. They represented helpless and hopeless in this society. James is reiterating what Jesus had already taught. We just read it in Matthew. James is already reiterating what Jesus said: take care of, visit, look out for, care for, show love to people in our world who have been outcast and disregarded. Take care of and look out for people who are needy and pushed aside. Take care of and love those who are vulnerable. And when we do, when we take care of those people who need it the most, it shows people what we believe. It shows what we believe. It doesn't just say what we believe, it shows what we believe. It's almost like a bright light in a dark room. Or as Jesus said, like a candle on a lampstand that gives light to the whole room so that everyone around it can see the good works, not the good words, not the here's what I say, here's what I believe. No, the good works, so that who can be glorified? Our Father in heaven, right? I think that's on this. I think it's on your little lantern here. Matthew 5:16, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. This is what James is saying.